Alien woman had nowhere to go. Then a human built her a home using stone. The stars above the desolate planet of Zorith. 7 burned cold and distant, their light barely piercing the thick, swirling atmosphere. The planet was a barren wasteland, a forgotten rock on the edge of the galaxy where no one ventured unless they had no other choice. It was here that Kayla, an alien woman of the Lamari species, found herself stranded. The Lamari were a peaceful race, known for their luminous, bioluminescent skin and their deep connection to nature. But Kayla's people had been driven from their home world by the ruthless Galactic Dominion, a militaristic empire that sought to conquer and exploit every corner of the galaxy. Kayla had been separated from her family during the evacuation, her ship damaged and forced to crash land on Zorith 7. She had been alone for weeks, surviving on what little food and water she could scavenge from the wreckage. Her once radiant skin had dulled, her energy fading as the harsh environment took its toll. She had no shelter, no way to call for help, and no hope of escaping the planet on her own. The Dominion's patrols were closing in, and she knew it was only a matter of time before they found her. But then, on the horizon, she saw something that made her heart race. A figure, humanoid in shape, moving toward her. Elliot Grayson was a man out of time, a geologist and engineer from Earth. He had been part of a deep space exploration mission that had gone horribly wrong. His ship had been caught in a wormhole, spitting him out light years from home. He had crash-landed on Zorith 7 months ago, and like Kayla, he had been surviving on his wits and determination. Elliot was a practical man, resourceful and stubborn. He had built a rudimentary shelter from the wreckage of his ship, using his knowledge of geology to identify usable materials in the rocky terrain. He had even managed to rig a solar-powered water purifier, ensuring he had a steady supply of clean water. But despite his ingenuity, he was lonely. The silence of the planet was oppressive, and the weight of his isolation was beginning to wear on him. When he saw Kayla, he thought he was hallucinating at first. Her luminescent skin glowed faintly in the dim light, and her slender, graceful form was unlike anything he had ever seen. But as he approached, he realized she was real and in desperate need of help. Kayla froze as the human drew closer. She had heard stories of humans, of course, their ingenuity, their resilience, their capacity for both kindness and cruelty. But she had never met one in person. She raised her hands in a gesture of peace, her voice trembling as she spoke in the universal trade language. "Please, I mean no harm. I'm stranded like you." Elliot stopped a few feet away, studying her carefully. He could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her body swayed unsteadily. He nodded slowly, lowering the makeshift spear he had been carrying. "I'm Elliot," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "You look like you could use some help." Kayla's relief was palpable. She nodded, her bioluminescent skin flickering faintly. "Thank you. My name is Kayla. I have nowhere to go." Elliot gestured for her to follow him. "Come on. I've got a shelter. It's not much, but it's better than being out here." As they walked, Kayla told Elliot her story, how her people had been driven from their homeworld, how she had been separated from her family, how she had been surviving on her own. Elliot listened in silence, his heart aching for her. He knew what it was like to be alone, to feel like the universe had abandoned you. When they reached his shelter, Kayla was amazed. It was a simple structure built from stones he had carefully stacked and sealed with a natural adhesive he had concocted from local plants. The roof was made from salvaged metal, and a small solar panel provided just enough power to run a few essential devices. It was crude, but it was a home. "You built this by yourself?" Kayla asked, her voice filled with awe. Elliot shrugged. "I had to. It's not much, but it keeps me alive." Kayla stepped inside, her luminescent skin casting a soft glow that illuminated the space. She turned to Elliot, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for helping me, for giving me a place to stay." Elliot smiled faintly. "You're welcome. It's not much, but it's better than being out there." Over the next few weeks, Elliot and Kayla worked together to improve the shelter. Elliot taught Kayla how to identify edible plants and how to purify water, while Kayla shared her knowledge of the stars and the constellations. They spent their evenings talking, sharing stories of their respective worlds and cultures. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared experiences of loss and survival. But as the days passed, Kayla grew increasingly anxious. She knew the Dominion's patrols were searching for her, and she feared what would happen if they found her and Elliot. She confided in him one evening as they sat by the fire, the stars twinkling above. "I can't stay here forever," she said softly. "The Dominion will find me eventually. And when they do, they'll kill you too." Elliot frowned, his jaw tightening. "We'll figure something out. I'm not going to let them take you." Kayla shook her head. "You don't understand. They're relentless. They won't stop until they've captured or killed every last Lamari." Elliot was silent for a moment, his mind racing. Then he stood, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we'll make sure they can't find you." The next morning, Elliot set to work on a new project. Using his knowledge of geology and engineering, he began constructing a hidden sanctuary deep within the rocky terrain. He chose a location far from the shelter, a natural cave system that he reinforced with stone and metal. He designed the entrance to be nearly invisible, blending seamlessly with the surrounding rock. Kayla helped as much as she could, her luminescent skin providing light in the dark tunnels. Together, they worked tirelessly, carving out a space that would serve as a refuge. Elliot even rigged a ventilation system using salvage parts, ensuring the air would remain fresh. When the sanctuary was finally complete, Kayla stepped inside, her eyes wide with wonder. The walls were smooth and cool, the space large enough to accommodate both of them comfortably. A small stream ran through one corner, providing a source of water, and Elliot had even managed to install a rudimentary heating system. "It's incredible," Kayla whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "You did all this for me?" Elliot nodded, his expression serious. "I told you I wouldn't let them take you. This is your home now, for as long as you need it." Kayla's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out, taking Elliot's hand in hers. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." The Dominion's patrols arrived a week later. Their ships descended from the sky, their searchlights scanning the barren landscape. Elliot and Kayla watched from the hidden sanctuary, their hearts pounding as the soldiers combed the area. But they never found the entrance to the sanctuary. Elliot's design was flawless, the stone blending seamlessly with a natural rock. The patrols eventually gave up, their ships disappearing into the sky as quickly as they had come. Kayla let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her body trembling with relief. "They're gone," she whispered. Elliot nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Told you we'd be safe." Kayla turned to him, her luminescent skin glowing brighter than ever. "You saved my life," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you." Elliot shook his head. "You don't have to. You're not alone anymore, Kayla. We're in this together." As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Elliot and Kayla continued to live in the sanctuary. They grew closer, their bond deepening as they relied on each other for survival. Elliot taught Kayla how to repair the solar panels and how to maintain the ventilation system, while Kayla shared stories of her people and their traditions. One evening, as they sat by the small fire Elliot had built, Kayla turned to him, her expression serious. "Elliot, I've been thinking. We can't stay here forever. The Dominion will come back eventually. And I want to find my family. I want to see if any of them survived. Elliot nodded, his heart heavy at the thought of leaving the sanctuary. But he knew she was right. Then we'll find a way off this planet, he said firmly. Together, Kayla smiled, her luminescent skin glowing with warmth. Together. In the end, it was Elliot's ingenuity that saved them. Using the remnants of his ship and the materials they had scavenged, he managed to build a small, functional spacecraft. It was crude and barely space-worthy, but it was enough to get them off Zorth 7. As they lifted off, leaving the barren planet behind, Kayla looked out at the stars, her heart filled with hope. She turned to Elliot, her hand resting on his. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." Elliot smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "You're welcome, Kayla. Now let's go find your family." And as their small ship disappeared into the vastness of space, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, a testament to the resilience and kindness of two beings from different worlds who had found a home in each other.